So I use HiveOS. I originally wanted to use Windows, and that's what I did. It took me a really long time to set up the rigs, as you know, just putting the image on them, updating it because I had an older image of Windows, and I wanted to stick with Windows because I know Windows. I've worked with Windows forever, as I'm sure a lot of you have. But it's really not the optimal way to mine. With Windows 10, even Pro, you don't have the ability to fully stop Windows Update. So I like to call them malicious, Windows patches. I know they mean well and they need to keep their OS secure, but their OS is so vast and is meant for so many different things. If you can use something like HiveOS or SMOS, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty more coming that are purpose-built, typically just different flavors of Ubuntu, it really, really simplifies your life. I learned that the hard way, so hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and maybe start with something like HiveOS or SMOS. In this case, it's going to be about HiveOS. First thing you need to do is click the referral link that I put in the description because you're awesome. Thank you. It'll bring you to the sign up page and you can sign up for an account. So once you've signed up for your account, you're going to download HiveOS. So if we do a direct download for the zip file, that's 2 gigs, so it's going to take a couple minutes. And I'm going to pause this while that downloads. Okay, so it's downloaded, and we're going to unblock it before I unzip it. So then we're going to extract the files. We're going to extract them here. And I'm going to pause the video again so that you don't have to wait. Okay, so now it's extracted, and we have the disk image file, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to use something like Etcher, which is awesome. So you're going to go to etcher.io, download Etcher, and it allows you to essentially put images like the one you just downloaded onto USB drives or solid state hard drives, or essentially anything that you can plug into a USB slot. So we're going to select our HiveOS as the image, and then it's going to ask us to select a drive. So you can literally put this on a USB drive, which is pretty awesome. However, it's not optimal. So I've experienced issues using USB drives. Some people swear by them because it just makes their life so easy. I really believe that you get what you pay for. So I had originally started with solid state drives. So that was for Windows, just because I didn't want to wait on the boot times. It ended up working out really, really well for HiveOS. And you can simply use something like a USB to SATA connector in order to use it just like a USB drive. So I'm going to pause the video, I'm going to plug the USB drive in, and then we're going to start the process of putting this image onto, it's right here in front of me, burning the image onto this USB. So now that you have the drive plugged in, or now that I have the drive plugged in, it's as simple as just clicking flash. And as soon as you click flash, it's going to kick off, and for a USB stick rather than a solid state drive, it takes about 25 minutes on average, I find. And with solid state drives and USB 3 ports, it's really quick. So it's maybe a couple of minutes max. And then the validation time is done in 30, 40 seconds. And then you can simply carry that off, plug it into your rig, turn everything on, and boot up. Type in your rig ID, type in the password that's generated, and you're off to the races. Setting up your wallet and picking the miner you want to use. So that's it for HiveOS installation. So if you've experienced mining on Windows, maybe you have a great experience. Maybe you've got 8 GPUs running and it's super solid and you don't mind the Windows updates that reboot you in the middle of the night. Or maybe you've got it scheduled during the day and you work from home and it just works for you. That's awesome. You want to remote into each one of them individually and check on them. That's great, and more power to you. I've got nothing against Windows. But you have to truly appreciate being able to see all of your rigs, being able to see the temperatures of all of your GPUs, being able to see the fan speed and the hash rates at an individual level and see which one's working and which one's not. Like, this is an absolute blessing when I'm managing 23 different cards. One of them happens to be in the Windows rig. If you're looking at this and you're seeing, well, there's 23. I'm sorry, there's 24 because I added the 1070. Forgot about that one. So technically 24 GPUs across 4 different rigs, one of them being what I'm recording this on now. Like there's no replacing the convenience of being able to just go to a website and see all this information and go, oh, yep, we're good, and walk away and go back to whatever you were doing. As well as get Telegram notifications when your rigs go offline or when they drop below a certain hash rate. There is a tremendous amount of convenience to be had with some of these purpose-built mining OSs. So let's start digging into this, and let's bring in the example we had with the Raven Supernova worker that we set up, and show you how to set up a wallet and an actual miner, the CC miner you see here. And then we're going to add that example rig. Or I may or may not be able to do that because I don't have to pay right now because it's free for the first 3. So I'll figure that out in a minute, but I will show you how this gets set up. So, all right, let's talk about rigs, and we're going to add a rig. Before I leave this screen, I just wanted to mention a couple things that threw me for a loop with HiveOS. And you just saw the screen flash there. So that's actually refreshing the rigs every 30 seconds. So here you see some dips, and that's rigs going offline. And it totally flipped me out last night, and it started like every one of my rigs went offline. I'm like, what is going on? Like they've been solid for days. You know, why are they giving me trouble now? It happened that HiveOS was having issues, and the agent that talks out to HiveOS servers in Amsterdam to report this stuff to you and shoot those messages out over Telegram was having issues receiving, whether it's, you know, downtime or lag or DDoS attacks, who knows what it is. But don't freak out. You can look at these rigs individually and shell into them and watch them mine just like you do on Windows, right? Just like this, they look exactly the same. So as long as they're mining, as long as you can check Supernova and make sure that they're okay, don't sweat it. Check that first rather than rebooting things like I did and freaking out and, you know, shutting stuff off and turning stuff on. Don't do that. Just check your pool, see if your workers are still online, and then troubleshoot from there. So we're going to go to the rigs area. And now that we're in the rigs area, we're going to go to new rig. Now, names. Names are what your worker names are going to be. So pick a naming scheme. You know, whether it's planets or, you know, different terrains, whatever suits your fancy. Maybe Overwatch characters if you like to play Activision Blizzard games. But that's important. So make sure that whatever you're going to name this is what you want your worker names to be. So in this case, we're going to just do example worker that we set up on the Supernova pool. You don't have to name the number of GPUs. It'll find it automatically. You don't have to set up a specific miner or a wallet. You can leave them default for now. And this password for sending stats. This is important. So when you create this worker, you're going to get a rig ID. And that rig ID is specific to that worker. So when you log into HiveOS for the first time, it's going to ask you for the rig ID, which is a number. So you're going to take that number, and then you're going to take whatever password you end up with and enter that when it asks you for the password. So it's going to be rig ID, then password. And then you enter this password, and that's how it sets up the rig to be monitored on your specific account. So it's tied to you. Make sense? So I'm going to skip the adding part because I can't add any more to this account, I don't believe. Well, heck, let's try it. Example worker. It's okay. It actually shows up as offline because I'm not paying. Totally fine. This is actually perfect. This rig shows up as offline because, number one, I haven't added anything to it. It's not an actual real rig, but it's perfect for showing you what a rig ID looks like and where it shows up, as well as what the name of the worker should be. So in our case, it's example worker. And you can hover over the password and it'll show you what the password for that particular rig and rig ID is. So that when you go to set up HiveOS for the first time and you get to that very first prompt, it asks you for the rig ID. This is your rig ID, 82403. And then it's going to ask you for your password. Your password is NR blah, 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 case sensitive. You enter that information and make sure it's right. And as soon as you do, it's going to immediately connect that worker to your account, and you can then monitor that worker. Awesome, right? So next step is wallets. All right, so let's take a look at wallets. And wallets, I did not appreciate at first. It was very confusing until I understood it. And then when I understood it, I'm like, this is the greatest thing in the world, super easy, great feature. But it's not explained very well, and it's super confusing if you don't understand it. So let's take a look. So go to wallets. Now you see a whole bunch of wallets here that I have set up, and some of this is going to be blurred out. But we're going to go to new wallet. And I'm going to do two birds with one stone here. So the name of this wallet. There's a lot of good, helpful information just within each of these different areas. And this one in particular, this is just a name of this wallet for you, not for the pool. So it's not your worker name here. This can be, you know, my super fat Lambo wallet, right? So that's just an identifier for you to be able to recognize the wallet and easily identify that, oh, this is for Supernova, or oh, this is for Mining Pool Hub, whatever the case may be. The next thing to point out is the DWAL address. So this doesn't have to be an actual public receiving wallet address that we kind of think of them as. So this could actually be, or this is, in the case of mining for Ravencoin, your account name. So bear with me here for a second. So we're going to go to CC Miner. And if you're mining Ravencoin, it's a fork of Bitcoin. So it's asking you for the miner fork. The miner fork is Raven. And the hash algorithm is X16R. Raven. And it's nicely identified in here. So now you have your wallet and your worker template. So what the heck is this, right? Well, we have more good information here. And we know that we need our account name dot our worker name. So this is actually, the template's already right here. So we can actually just copy right here, copy paste. So now we've got our DWAL, which is our account name for Supernova, and then our worker name, which is our worker name. And our worker name is going to be pulled from your rig name. So make sure, again, that you named your rig the same as your worker, or that you named your worker inside your pool the same as your rig. Password is going to be X, like we set before. And then we can find our stratum address in the pool you're mining. So if you're not using Supernova and it's something else, this is still going to be the address you need for whatever pool you're mining in, whether it's Panda or Three-Eyed Raven or Raven Pool, whatever the case may be. So we're going to copy this, and then we're going to go back over to our wallet, and we're going to paste this. And that's it. You've now set up CC Miner to be able to mine Raven on your rig and send that work to the Supernova worker and get it aggregated into Supernova and then cache it out. Awesome. You're off to the races. You're ready to go. The next thing to note, and I'll show you one of my wallets that's set up already this way, is that you can add a second miner within each rig. So you can actually segregate, say, cards 0 through 2 or 0 through 3, so 4 cards to mine Raven. And then you could have, if you've got 8 cards in your rig, you could have the other 4 cards mining Equihash for Nicehash. That's what I was doing for a while. It's a great feature if you're not so sure about a coin and you just want to dedicate a few GPUs to it at first because you're not sure if it's a scam or you're just trying something out. To do that, you need to set up which devices are going to be used to mine in CC Miner and which devices are going to be used for Equihash. So in this case, we would literally copy this and paste it in here. and say you wanted, as I mentioned, 0, 1, and 2, and 3, to make it 4 GPUs to mine on Ravencoin. And then you want your other ones to mine on Equihash. You can do that. Very cool. So bear with me a second here, and I'll pull up one of the wallets from my other rigs that are already set up. And I'll show you what it actually looks like configured, so that if you want to do that, you can do that. So here's the wallet that I was using for a little while to mine both Nicehash and Ravencoin, and changed some of the fields here just to give you a better idea of what goes where. So for your Nicehash stuff, your wallet address goes here in the Z wallet address, and for Supernova, the account name goes here in the DWAL wallet address. For CC Miner, like we talked about before, you have your Raven for the miner fork and the X16R algorithm. And then I had my devices set up so GPU 0 and 1 is mining Ravencoin, or was mining Ravencoin. Now I'm full on Ravencoin. And if we go over to the DSTM's Zcash, that's actually what was sending the GPUs 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to Nicehash to be paid out in Bitcoin and fill contracts for folks that were looking to mine the Z Classic to Bitcoin private fork. And it was profitable for a little while. I believe it still is. I haven't checked what to mine in a while, but kind of gone down the Ravencoin rabbit hole for now. But you can see here that you can easily split cards on the same exact rig to do different things. That's pretty awesome and easy enough to set up. So feel free to copy this, or take from it what you will, but I wanted to share that as it's kind of a more advanced feature. And I'm going to stop this video, but I'll show you how you actually set that up when you're doing this. Cool. So now that we've got our wallet configured and we're ready to apply that to a rig and have it start dual mining, not dual mining, that's actually something different, but mining two separate coins on the same rig and splitting cards between them. So we're going to click on the worker name, and here you obviously see there's no GPUs or anything, so there's no information here. But be that as it may, you click on miner, and then for this, we're going to pick CC miner because that's the first one. Doesn't particularly matter which order because the wallet is going to tell the rig which cards are supposed to do what. And the wallet is going to be the DSTM Nicehash, CC Miner, Supernova. That was the name of the one that I showed you. And the second miner is going to be the DSTM Zcash. And then the little rocket launcher here, you click apply, and the rig will take the command and it'll immediately start running. And what you'll see is, if we go back to monitoring, nice and fast, and what you'll see is like one of these will be blue, and there are actually two in this case. However many GPUs you set up for one algorithm, whatever is going to be on the second miner, whatever you pick, those cards are going to be shown in blue here. And you can see if a card is not reporting, in this case it's just not reporting fast enough, it'll show up with this like orange background. And if a whole rig goes offline, which may happen here because it's been relatively slow now, it fixed itself. But the whole line shows up in red. So again, fairly obvious that there's something wrong. All right, that's enough for this video. Okay, so let's talk about overclocking. There's two ways that you can do it. You can apply it directly to the rig at the rig level and manually adjust it per rig, or the second way is to create an overclocking profile that you associate with a wallet. So that when you pick your miner and you pick your wallet, that determines the mining settings and then your pool settings, but it can also apply the overclocking settings to that particular rig. So let's first look at the rig itself. So what I did was clicked on the rig name, and then it brings me into the actual rig. And you can click on NVIDIA OC, mine's NVIDIA. You could just as easily be using AMD cards. This looks very much the same. On this rig, I have a 100 core overclock. The fans are set to 90%, and the power limit is 180. And the other thing to point out is that this little link here, this little chain shows up. So because I have it just 100, that means it applies to everything on that rig. So every card on that rig gets the same overclock for memory, fan, and power limit. If you need to adjust them individually, let's say you have multiple different cards and they react differently to different overclocks, that's fine. You can simply hit comma and then space. So 200 and 300. Yeah, we're not going to apply that, but you see what it's doing. It's incrementing the GPU as I use the commas. So it lets you know where you're at and which GPU you're actually programming. So I'm going to cancel this, and then we're going to go take a look at the actual overclocking profiles that you can set. So I'm going to click on wallets, which is going to bring us to this area that gives you the overview, and you have these different tabs here: rigs, wallets, OC. OC is the overclocking. So you can see here I've got an overclocking profile for Equihash, the DSTM miner, which I was able to use a core 200 overclock, a memory 700 overclock, which is different than Windows. For the memory overclock here in Linux, it's actually half of what it is in Windows. So for MSI Afterburner, let me pull that up. Oops. So MSI Afterburner here, the 300 memory overclock I have running on this particular card would be actually 600 in Linux. And the core clock is 100, it's still 100 in Linux too. The power limit is also a little confusing because this is a 75% power limit. Here you're actually calling out 180 watts, which I like better, but you can find that with hardware info. It's a software program that you can use to actually look at the individual cards and see exactly what they're running at. Now, the last thing I'll mention is that the cards report a certain wattage, but that's still reported from the driver, so that may not be exactly what you're pulling. To find out exactly what you're pulling, use something like a kilowatt. You can just look that up on Amazon. So back to the profiles. So if I edit this profile, you see you have a section here for AMD. You got the profile name. And then because I'm using NVIDIA cards, that's the only one that I programmed. So 100, 90, and 180. And again, you can individually do that if you need to by using commas. So now that we've done that, and we've set that profile, we've clicked OK, and you've even got examples of different profiles for AMD and NVIDIA here as well. You can then go into the wallets and then edit a wallet that you may have created. And if you scroll down to the bottom, there's an overclocking profile. So you can set the overclocking profile directly in the wallet. Pretty neat, right? Overall, I've really enjoyed using HiveOS. You know, they have their issues, everything does, but I think it's a pretty solid operating system and been a huge step up as far as consistency and stability goes. All right, hope you've enjoyed this. So let's chat for a second. When you're having issues trying to log into HiveOS, so let's say HiveOS is actually like having some sort of issues, because they're definitely having issues right now. And it just spins and spins. Oh, it's actually working. But so let's try and go inside here. Perfect example of when not to immediately freak out. So, oh my gosh, all my rigs are down. What happened? Like, what is going on here? Seems like it applied a whole bunch of different settings. No, not necessarily. So let's start by looking at Shellinabox. So we've now got a login prompt. So this is going directly to the rig rather than going through HiveOS and then back to your rig. So now we've logged in, we can see that everything looks to be fine. And we can further ask it to show us the running miner screen. So now it's showing me the running mining screen, and we can watch this for a little bit. So is it actually mining? And it looks like it is. So that's the first step if you log into Hive and all of a sudden like everything's down. Oh, look, now everything's back up again. So they're having issues, as you can see here, these spikes on this timeline. These aren't my rigs actually going down. This is them having some sort of like connectivity or latency issues. Rigs are actually performing wonderfully. That's one of the highest hash rates I've seen out of an 8-card rig. And this is actually a GTX 1070 Ti in here too. Higher than my 8 GTX 1080 Ti's. That's another story entirely. But I just wanted to quickly point out one of the troubleshooting methods because I was actually experiencing it. So I wanted to share it so that it's knowledge that you have. So you're not immediately like freaking out if you find this one day or come into this. You can kind of approach it more methodically than I did the first time I saw it. Hey, thanks for watching all these videos. I hope you found it informative, and I definitely shaved off some time and frustrations for some folks, especially if you're first, getting into mining, and second, starting to want to branch out away from Windows, or maybe just try a different purpose-built mining OS. I've put in the description like time separations, like different points in time that reference different things that I've covered. I know the video is a little bit long, but there's a lot, and there's hopefully something in there for everybody. And this is more of an aggregation of things that I've learned from watching others in the community that have given their time. Bits Be Trippin', Bosscoin, Thomas Carter with technical analysis on Coin Mastery on YouTube. He's been great to really put things into perspective. And I definitely want to reiterate a little bit from him, and that is, if you're first getting into this space and it's new to you, don't look at it like a lottery ticket, like, oh, if I put in $1,000, I'm going to become a millionaire. Put in the time, put in the work, do your own research, and look at this as a long-term play, because I think there's so much changing in the next 10 years. I think blockchain especially will be a very big part of that. And I certainly don't think we've really discovered all the potential that blockchain can bring to the world. So if you enjoyed it, give me a like. Use the reference link for HiveOS to subscribe to HiveOS if it's something that you like. It helps me. It encourages me to keep doing this and spend time doing this. So thank you.